Why does Dark Souls feel like a dream? It is because you arrive at a story that is already a legend, and you hear fragments of it. The kingdom has already fallen. Every war has already been fought. Every legend you hear is spoken in the past tense. What you explore is not a living world. It is the residue of one. And because of that, Dark Souls doesn't feel like a place you experience in real time. It feels like something remembered. The sensation it leaves behind is the same one you get when you wake up from a vivid dream. The world is unforgettable. The blinding golden skies of Anor Londo, the cold somber stillness of the painted world, or the forgotten ash lake. The stories have already been told ages ago, like dreams do through impressions rather than explanations. Through ruins instead of records. Through people who speak echoes of lands that are just a fragment of a dying memory by now. All of these memories and feelings linger long after you rekindle the dying flame and lay down the controller. That feeling is pristine, impossible to fully grasp. And this is what makes Dark Souls so special, and ironically, more than what a video game is supposed to do. And to fully understand it, we have to take it apart. The journey begins with an act of impossible transit, being carried by a giant crow to a land far away. This is pure fairy tale logic, the once upon a time that transitions us from the prison of reality to the kingdom of myth. Upon landing, we are met with the crumbling ruins of Firelink Shrine. It is a place that feels physically impossible, a ruined temple perched on the edge of a cliff, where the wind whistles through empty arcs and the only warmth comes from a dying fire. The music is warm and welcoming, a place to rest and toast at after long adventures. The crumbling ruins, the warm music, they all add to the feeling of somber, hopeful serenity. But Firelink is more than just stone and ash. It was a home for thousands of travelers and heroes. Some are long dead, some are about to snap into madness, and some are there surviving with just a flicker of hope. They are the pillars of this dream. They don't offer you grand quests or heroic speeches. They offer you fragments of their own fading sanity. They sit by the cliffside or lean against the moss-covered walls, their silhouettes barely distinguishable from the ruins themselves. When they speak, it's with a strange rhythmic detachment, like the figures in a dream who seem to know the ending of the story before you do. Take the crestfallen warrior, the first soul you encounter. He doesn't greet you with hope. He greets you with a tired, hollow cynicism. Listen to how he describes your arrival, not as a hero, but as just another new arrival in a cycle that has no end.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess, fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first, but there's no salvation here. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right?
As you talk to other souls of Firelink Shrine like Petrus, Griggs, or Big Hat Logan, you realize that they aren't just characters. They are memories of who they once were. Their dialogue is filled with longing for lands they can no longer reach. You can see it in what they wear. In a world of grey ash and crumbling stone, their armor feels foreign, strange, and strikingly out of place. Take Knight Lautrec. He's adorned in a suit of gold, so vibrant it feels like a mockery to the crumbling ruins of Lortran surrounding him. This is the armor of favor, sculpted with a pair of golden arms that wrap around his torso in a permanent progressive embrace. It's a suit of pride and vanity, shimmering with the ego of a man who still believes he is the protagonist of a story that ended long ago. Contrast that with the crestfallen warrior. His gear is the polar opposite. He wears rugged utilitarian steel and rusted chainmail that looks as though it has been worn for centuries without being polished. The metal is dented, the leather is frayed, and the whole set seems to sag under the weight of his empathy, the hopeless nature of him intertwined in his armor. It doesn't look like he's wearing the armor. It looks like the armor is the only thing keeping his hollowed body from falling apart. Then there is the most recognizable silhouette in all of Lordran, Siegmeyer of Catarina. Clad in what many mockingly call onion armor, his suit is designed in rounded, bulbous steel. In any other game, he would be a joke, but here, his armor represents a different kind of dream, the whimsical dream. It looks silly and maybe out of place, but strangely, that's what makes all of this feel like a dream. In the world of Dark Souls, the armor is adorned with pride and glory by these knights. But it gives them the appearance of a storybook character who has wandered into a grim, dark nightmare. There is a strange, endearing dignity to his round silhouette. He is a reminder of a land where people still value bravery and jolly cooperation, even if that land is now just a distant, fading thought. These names sound like legends, belonging to a world that feels as if it's already been erased. When you see Siegmeyer sitting by a ledge snoring in his massive steel suit, or a Knight of Astora in his elite blue surcoat, you aren't just seeing a soldier. You're seeing a ghost of civilization that the dream of Lordran has swallowed whole. These armors are the only evidence that these places ever existed, leaving only these beautiful, strange ghosts behind. But every dream has a sad side to it. Even the small comfort of the fire is built on a foundation of suffering. Beneath the flagstones of the shrine sits Anastasia of Astora, the silent Firekeeper. She is a woman whose very existence has been charred by the duty she holds. Her clothing, the dingy set, tells a story that, for her robes to turn from pure white to the color of soot and ash, she must have been sitting in the dark cell for centuries. She has tended to the flame for countless chosen undead who came before you, watching them rise, watching them fall, and watching them hollow, all while her own tongue was removed so she could never scream against the injustice of it. She is the ultimate symbol of the never-ending dream, a figure frozen in time, serving a cycle that has long since lost its meaning. But where there is martyr, there is always a predator. Sitting across from her is Knight Lothric of Carim. Clad in golden armor that looks like a pair of arms embracing him, he is a jarring wake-up call in this lucid dream. While others are lost in their nostalgia, Lothric is cold, calculating, and dangerously present. He watches the Keeper not with reverence, but with a terrifying hunger. Listen to the way he speaks of her, as if she were a tool that has finally outlived its usefulness.
Oh, hello. I'm considering a change of location. I have a rather pressing matter to attend to up above. That Keeper has served me well, but enough with her.
There it is again. That laugh. That dry, mocking laugh at the end. It's the sound of someone who has realized they are trapped in a loop. It isn't a laugh of joy. It's a laugh of superiority. It's the sound of someone who knows the strings you are being played by and has decided to cut them. When Lothric eventually murders Anastasia and the fire at the heart of the dream goes cold, the illusion of safety is shattered. You realize then that the warm music and the welcoming ruins were a mask. Underneath the dream of Firelink is a reality of blood, betrayal, in a silence that no amount of ash can ever truly hide. When the fire goes out and the music becomes silent, the dream loses its warmth. You are forced out of the safety of the shrine and into the cold, impossible geometry of Lordran itself. You begin your ascent into the undead burg, and the scale of the world begins to warp. You climb what feels like hours through stone corridors and over narrow battlements. The weight of the height presses against your chest. There are countless challenges and difficulties, but then you find a rickety elevator, and with a single mechanical click, you are back at the start. But the ascent is only one layer of the dream. What makes Firelink's shrine truly feel like the center of a subconscious mind is that it doesn't just lead forward, it leads everywhere. From this single crumbling shrine, the world branches out in ways that defy natural geography. You can turn your back on the sunlit burg and descend an elevator into the new Londo ruins. Suddenly, the warm music of the shrine is replaced by the sound of lapping water and the sight of a city drowned in blue-black shadows. There are no loading screens, no breaks in reality. You simply walk from a place of safety into a town of ghosts, which is filled with abyss. Or you can wander into the graveyard behind the shrine, where the earth is choked with the bones of giants. One moment, you are standing in the wind-swept ruins of a temple, and the next, you are descending into the catacombs, a dark, suffocating nightmare of narrow tunnels and necromancy. This is the logic of a nexus. In our dreams, we often have a safe house, a place that feels like home yet has doors that lead to a desert, a forest, or the deep ocean. Firelink is that safe house. It is the eye of the storm. It creates a sense of claustrophobic grandeur. You realize that you aren't traveling across a continent. You are navigating a single, massive, interconnected organism. A world that has folded in on itself until all of history, all of life, and all of death are stacked within each other. But just as the labyrinth starts to feel suffocating, the dream offers you a glimmer of light. You step out onto a sun-drenched balcony, and there, staring directly into the blinding radiance, is a man who doesn't seem to belong to this nightmare.
Ah, hello. You don't look hollow, far from it. I am Solaire of Astora, an adherent of the Lord of Sunlight. Now that I am undead, I have come to this great land, the birthplace of Lord Gwyn, to seek my very own son. Do you find that strange? Well, you should. No need to hide your reaction. I get that look all the time.
Solaire of Astora, the Firelink shrine of characters. He is warm, hopeful, and a serene human, a bonfire in a world of ice. Look at the radiance he brings. In this bleak, dying world where everything is rusted or rotting, he is clad in armor adorned with a hand-painted sun. It is a vital detail. The sun on his chest wasn't forged by gods. It was painted by his own hand. He is captivated by a star that shouldn't even be visible in a world this far gone, and yet he sees it. In any other story, Solaire would be the hero. He would be the one to break the curse and lead the people into a new age. But in the dream of Lordran, he is something far more haunting. He is an optimist in an apocalypse. He's the person who refuses to acknowledge that the dream has turned into a nightmare. His dialogue is some of the most famous in gaming history, but when you listen to it through the lens of the subconscious, it takes on a surreal, almost ethereal quality.
The way I see it, our fates appear to be intertwined. In a land brimming with hollows, could that really be mere chance? So what do you say? Why not help one another on this lonely journey?
Listen to those words. Lonely journey. Even in his optimism, Solaire acknowledges the fundamental truth of the dream that we are all, ultimately, alone. In our sleep, we might see others, we might talk to them, but the experience is ours and ours alone. Solaire is the only one who tries to bridge that gap. He offers you the white sign soapstone, a tool that allows you to cross the borders of reality to help another soul. He is the only character who seems to understand that the flow of time itself is convoluted. He knows that heroes from centuries past are phasing in and out of existence like flickering candles. This is the ultimate dream logic explanation. Solaire isn't just a knight. He's a transcendental phantom. He represents the idea that even in a world designed to crush your spirit, you can choose to find your own sun. But because this is a Dark Souls dream, there is a tragedy hidden in his light. Solaire's pursuit of his very own sun is the quintessence of a dreamer's obsession. He is looking for a light so bright it will finally wake him up or blind him forever. When you see him standing there, staring at the sky, you don't just see a knight. You see the personification of the player's own hope, a flickering ember that refuses to go out even as the world around him turns to ash. But Solaire's light is a static one. To find the true heart of this dream, the logic of the world demands that you stop wandering and start climbing. Think about the sheer physical journey you've endured to get here. You've crawled through the poison of Blighttown, rang the 2 bells of awakening, and stood before the gates of Sen's fortress. It is a literal meat grinder, a gauntlet of swinging blades, lightning-hurling snakes, and crushing traps. It is designed to break the mind of anyone who isn't fully committed to the dream. You push higher and harder, leaving the mud and the rot behind till you reach the very pinnacle of this fortress. There, you face a huge ironclad giant, the Iron Golem, a silent sentinel standing between you and the heavens. And then, the moment happens. You don't walk into the next area. You are carried. Upon defeating the giants, you are scooped up by winged demons and flown over the massive, impenetrable wall. In an instant, you are transported from a world of grey stone and traps to a land of gold and sun. It feels like a total shift in reality. It feels like a fairy tale. You find yourself in Anor Londo, the city of the gods. After hours, perhaps days, of being lost in the dark, you are staring at a cathedral bathed in an eternal golden sunset. It is majestic. It is pristine. It feels like a dream you weren't supposed to have, a vision of a world that shouldn't exist in a game with this name. Remember the title on the box, Dark Souls. Everything you have seen so far has earned that title. Your journey has been eerie, desaturated, hollow, and devoid of life. You've walked through pieces of sorrow and silence. You've expected the peak of this world to be more of the same, perhaps a darker tower or a deeper pit. You never would have imagined this was waiting for you. It's a massive subversion of your expectations. Your entire perspective changes. You realize that while the world below is a nightmare of dark souls, there is this shimmering, unreachable pinnacle that looks like a paradise. But there is a weight to this beauty. You have to remember the countless others, the characters you've met, the hollows you've stepped over, who tried to make this journey across the fortress and the swamp. They couldn't make it. They broke. They turned back or lost their minds. You are one of the precious few to ever set foot in this land of sun and mystery. You have ascended from the filth into the light, and for a brief moment, the dark in Dark Souls feels like a distant memory. As the winged demons drop you into the marble terrace, the first thing that hits you isn't the danger, it's the light. After the oppressive greys of the depths and the sickly greens of Blighttown, the sun of Anor Londo is blinding. The warm, saturated hues, the welcoming atmosphere, the grand architecture. The feeling of being in a land of high fantasy hits like a completely different wine. It bathes the city in a perpetual golden hour, the kind of light that makes everything look like a masterpiece, or a postcard from a time before the world broke. Throughout the journey, you have faced demons, the deads, creatures of most horrifying degrees. The land was crumbling, old, far from the glory it used to be. But Anor Londo is different. It feels pristine, marvelous. The structures feel freshly made, like it was made yesterday. The pillars and the grand halls stand clean and sturdy without the signs of even a small dent. Everything appears to look different from anything you've seen before. Like a land of fantasy, it's like finding an invisible summer in a cold winter, a flicker of fire in a pitch-black night. This is the pinnacle of the dream. After we lay our controllers and sleep, this is what we think about. It's the beauty of Dark Souls. The lack of music, the sunlit rafters, even the enemies are grander and more alluring, contrary to the horrifying abominations you encounter in the lower levels of Lordran. The enemies here are adorned in silver and gold. The mighty silver knights that served the gods, the giants wielding heavy halberds and golden cuirasses, are all part of the memory of what Dark Souls leaves behind. Even the most horrifying creatures like gargoyles or winged demons appear to be far more civilized and well-mannered than the heathens residing in the bergs and the swamps. As you lean back and explore through this pinnacle of the dream, you realize that it is built for giants, not for you. You feel like an intruder in a museum, a tiny flea crawling across the dinner table of the gods. The ceilings are too high, the archways are more grand. You are only a foreigner in this land of everlasting sun. But for all its beauty, Anor Londo is strikingly empty. Where is everyone? Where are the citizens of this city of the gods? You see the Silver Knights standing guard, frozen like statues, protecting rooms that have been empty for centuries. You see the giant sentinels, silent and unmoving until you step too close. It's the loneliness of the palace after the royalty has fled in the middle of the night. If you dare to strike the image of the Sun Princess, Guinevere, the reality of the dream shatters. The golden sun vanishes instantly, replaced by a cold moonlit night. The gods are revealed to be nothing more than illusions maintained by Dark Sun Gwendolyn, a hidden director behind a curtain. This is the wake-up call. You realize the golden age isn't just dying, it's already dead. You've been walking through a memory projected onto the ruins to keep the chosen undead compliant. The dream was a trap, a beautiful lie designed to make you sacrifice yourself to a flame that has no fuel left. When the sun goes out, you see the city for what it is, a graveyard of marble. The transition is jarring because it mirrors the feeling of a nightmare encroaching on a pleasant sleep. You are no longer the guest of the gods. You are the intruder who looked behind the veil. But there is a dream within a dream, tucked behind the grand cathedral, the sunlit halls, the grand archways. It hangs a painting, the painted world of Ariamis. If Lordran feels like a dream, then this is a fragment of that dream, a sub-dream, if you will. You don't walk through a door, you are absorbed. You reach out, touch the canvas, and the world of stone and gods simply dissolves. In its place, you are met with a bite of cold air and the soft rhythmic crunch of snow underfoot. The painted world feels different. It's cold, somber, quiet. There is a striking commonality between the golden spires of Anor Londo and the frozen ruins of Ariamis. A silence. In the undead berg, or the depths, the world is noisy. It is filled with the clashing of steel, the groans of the hollowed, and the chaotic commotions of a civilian in its death throes. But as you ascend or descend into the dream, the noise fades. Why is it that the higher we go, the lonelier it feels? Perhaps it is a commentary on civilization itself. We often associate higher societies with order, and order, when taken to its extreme, is silent. The commotion of the lower levels is the sound of life, however wretched. But Anor Londo, Ariamis, these are the dreams of the elite. They are civilized to the point of stagnation. They feel discarded, like a stage set after the actors have all gone home. We are left only to speculate. In these places, the quiet isn't peaceful. It's the heavy, oppressive silence of an empty museum. This silence is woven into the very architecture. The way the snow in Ariamis doesn't feel like weather, but like a layer of static over a memory, muting the world. It's a landscape that remains hauntingly relatable years later because it captures that specific dream feeling of being in a place that should be bustling, yet finding it perfectly, unnervingly still. This stillness is anchored by the iconic bridge of Ariamis, a structure so deeply etched into the DNA of this world that it reappears centuries later in the painted world of Ariandel. It is a bridge to nowhere, suspended over a white void, guarded by a rotting dragon. Walking across it feels like walking into a tightrope between reality and forgetting. The way the stone is cracked and dusted with snow makes the environment feel permanent, as if it has always been waiting for you to arrive and will remain long after you've gone. At the end of this cold path, you find crossbreed Priscilla. She is the ultimate guardian of this quiet. Unlike the screeching beasts of the lower world, she is gentle and soft-spoken. She doesn't treat your arrival as a threat, but as a misstep. She speaks to the undead as if it's nothing, offering a peaceful exit instead of battle. She's a unique entity in this dream, a boss you can choose to defeat or simply walk past. Due to her gentle nature, striking her feels like a violation of this dream's only mercy. This civility extends back out into the sunlit halls of Anor Londo, specifically to the giant blacksmith. Though he and Priscilla are discarded by the sun gods, one a bastard crossbreed and the other a giant's laborer, they are granted positions in these pristine environments. They occupy a higher castle than the desperate souls in the Berg, and their behavior reflects it. Think about the way the giant blacksmith speaks. He is kind, simple, and rhythmic.
I help anytime.
Despite his size and his status as a servant, he is far more civilized and gentle than the cynical snapping NPCs you meet in the mud of the lower levels. In the dream of a high civilization, even the outcasts are draped in a strange somber dignity. It creates a sense of closeness that shouldn't exist. These characters feel more like the figures in a storybook than the rotting inhabitants of a graveyard. They represent the dream's attempt to hold on to its manners while the world burns. Lordran isn't just a map of a kingdom. It's a map of the human subconscious where even the things we hide away in the snow are treated with a quiet, heartbreaking grace. The journey to the land of golden sorceries in many ways follows the oldest tropes in high fantasy. A beautiful princess is captured by a terrible primordial being, and a brave, valiant knight ventures into the dark to save her. It is the classic blueprint of a fairy tale. But in the dream of Dark Souls, you aren't here to witness the victory. You are here to witness the cost of the lie. Oolacile is the part of the dream where we see what Lordran was supposed to be. But by letting us experience it, the game shows us that even the most beautiful memories are built on sacrifice and a darkness that eventually swallows everyone. You went back in time to save a world that was already gone, only to realize you were just a ghost passing through a dying light. Oolacile feels different from the rest of the game. It is high fantasy in its purest form. You meet Elizabeth, a giant sentient mushroom who speaks with a motherly ancient grace. But amidst this magic, you encounter marvelous Chester. He's a man who feels like a glitch in the timeline, belonging to another universe entirely. With his long coat, top hat, and mechanical crossbow, he's a Victorian shadow, cast back into a medieval dream. A hint of the bloodborne nightmare that lies years ahead in the mind of the creator. To understand the dream of Oolacile, you have to look at the ground beneath your feet. The geography of the past isn't just old Lordran. It is a distinct, haunting atmosphere that feels more vibrant, yet more fragile than the world you left behind. The areas of Oolacile are a masterclass in high fantasy horror. You begin in the Royal Wood, a place that feels like the Darkroot Garden before the rot set in. It is lush, green, and bathed in a soft golden haze. But even here, the dream is off. The scarecrow gardeners prune the hedges with a mindless, aggressive obsession, and the stone knights rise from the earth like guardians of a peace that has already been violated. And you descend into the Oolacile township, and the fairy tale begins to twist. This is a vertical city, a maze of stone bridges and spiraling towers that look as though they were carved from ivory and gold. But the architecture is being reclaimed by the abyss. The buildings are impossibly tall and thin, feeling more like a dream palace than a functional city. The people of Oolacile, once masters of light. The people of Oolacile, once masters of light sorceries, have been transformed. Their heads are bloated into multi-eyed masses of flesh, and their limbs have been stretched into horrific, lanky proportions. They are the kind of inhabitants Priscilla spoke of, turned into the very monsters the dream was supposed to keep out. Moving through the township feels like navigating a memory that is being corrupted in real time. It shows the underbelly of the dream. You find sorceries like chameleon and hidden body, magic designed for play, for trickery, and for light. But you are using them to survive a nightmare of blood and darkness. It is the juxtaposition of this playful magic against the brutal reality of this abyss that makes Oolacile feel so surreal. At the very bottom lies the chasm of the abyss. This is where the landscape stops behaving like architecture and starts behaving like a void. The floors are made of solid darkness, lit only by the glowing eyes of humanity phantoms that float in the air like drifting thoughts. There is no stone here, no trees, only the raw primordial energy of the dark. It is the literal end of the world. Standing in the chasm, looking up at the distant shimmering towers of the township, you realize the scale of the tragedy. You are at the source of the infection, the point where the dream of Oolacile finally stopped being a fairy tale and became the dark, silent reality that world eventually swallowed Lodrin whole. But even as the dark swallows the past, the dream of Dark Souls offers one final impossible sanctuary. To find it, you have to leave the history of kings behind and descend to the very roots of existence. Why does Dark Souls feel like a dream? If you're looking for the answer, the reason this game lingers in your mind, making you feel sleepless and displaced long after the credits roll, it's this place. Ash Lake is the reason. To find Ash Lake is to find the basement of reality. You have to break through 2 illusory walls in a rotting tree, descending through a hollow that feels like it's falling out of the bottom of the universe. It is a secret teased in the opening cinematic, but buried so deep that most dreamers never find it. When you finally step out onto that grey sand and the music hits you, you realize that everything you've done until now, every boss killed, every kingdom visited, was all just a surface-level hallucination. What makes Ash Lake the epitome of the Dark Souls dream is its absolute haunting isolation. It is never talked about in any item description. No NPC mentions its name. No quest line points the way. It is perfectly pristinely hidden in a corner of the world the gods seemingly forgot to even acknowledge. While places like Anor Londo feel deserted, Ash Lake feels like it was intended to be empty. It is a primordial space that exists outside the cycle of fire and dark, showing you the terrifying scale of the world. Ash Lake is one of the locations that doesn't reward you with fancy weapons, extreme bosses, or anything of the like. It's the very intrinsic nature of the Ash Lake itself that is the reward. The beautiful beach, the last everlasting dragon, the serenity, the void, the pristine nature. It's the reward itself that feels something, a dream that you can't describe. The landscape is littered with countless arc trees stretching far into dense clouds. From the beach, we only see the base of these titans as they expand infinitely into the sky. The deep blue water and the beach of unnatural snaking sand formations create a horizon that feels like the white space at the edge of a mind. This is the most majestic location in Dark Souls. There is a popular theory that these trees are doors to other worlds, leading to places like Astora, Catarina, or Karim. These are places mentioned often, but we never see them. Or perhaps these trees could be other universes entirely. Ash Lake is the primordial blueprint. It is the unchanging tranquility that existed before the Age of Fire, and it will still remain long after the fire is gone. At the very end of this sandy void sits the stone dragon. It is the last of the everlasting dragons, a truly majestic and indifferent being that has survived since the beginning of time. It is a living fossil, staring into an infinite distance. It doesn't attack you. It doesn't speak. It simply is. In this dream, the dragon is the ultimate object of worship, allowing you to transcend your own humanity through its covenant. It represents a reward that isn't mechanical, but spiritual, the privilege of standing in the presence of something eternal. But even here, the dream has its tragedies. It is on these grey shores that the journey of Siegmeyer of Catarina finally ends. We see him with his daughter, Sieglind, in a moment of heartbreaking finality. How did a knight from the waking world find his way to the roots of the universe? We can only speculate. Perhaps, in his final moments of lucidity, he was drawn to the only place in Lordran that felt as quiet as the sleep he was about to enter. Ash Lake offers no major bosses and no essential plot points. Its beauty lies in its purposelessness. It is a visual item description that the player must uncover for themselves. You never knew it was there, but once you lay eyes on it, you never forget. It is the reason we keep coming back. It is the heart of the dream. In the end, Ash Lake remains indifferent to our presence. The everlasting dragons watched the world begin, and they will likely watch it end, tucked away in a corner of reality that time forgot. We fought through the prison of Blighttown and descended the claustrophobic depths of the Great Hollow, only to find a horizon that doesn't need a hero. And perhaps the most haunting truth of all of it is that our journey here was entirely solitary. We stood at the edge of the world, staring into the infinite arc trees, and only realized then that in the grand design of the ancient world, the chosen undead is not a savior, but just a visitor passing through a graveyard of giants. At the end, the salt in the sand feels less like a destination and more like a quiet goodbye to a world that has never moved on. If the silence of these grey shores felt heavier than any dream, and if the isolation of the Great Hollow left you feeling more like a ghost than a legend, you aren't alone in that feeling. If you've ever stood at the roots of the world and wondered why the beauty of Lordran feels so lonely, click here. Let's descend and indulge in the quiet and ask the question, why does Dark Souls feel so lonely?